like to call the Operations Committee together September 9th. First, we'll call the meeting to order. I'll do the prayer and then the pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Creasy, please stand. We also want to remember our law director, his mother has had a stroke, so he won't be with us tonight. So he's en route to the hospital. So, oh, most gracious and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your Son, Jesus Christ, and many blessings you give us, Father God. Father God, we come to you tonight to ask you for guidance and wisdom, Father God. For as the elected officials of this great county, Father God, that you would give us the wisdom. You'll embrace us, Father God, as you embrace this whole county and this country, Father. Father God, we ask that you go into put your healing hands on all those people, Father God, that we're afflicted by. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, election of chairman for the year.
I didn't see that was on the order of business.
I make a motion, we move that to the agenda.
Supposed to do it now? No, it's next minute. Okay.
Each September, right?
What was the motion, sir? Put it on this.
Motion to add to the agenda the election of the chair.
Do we have a motion? Put it on.
Motion and second put on the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll accept nominations, please.
Nominate Tim Isbell.
Yeah, second.
Who did nominate?
Tim.
Oh, yeah. Any other nominations?
Move we close nominations.
And if the one applicant or one nomination be elected by acclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda, and there's a couple of things that we need to add. One was the vacant parcels that was supposed to have been put on there, and I think Johnny Alley is here to discuss that. And we need to add, Commissioner Scott had sent out something this morning and want to take up a registration fee. And I would ask that somebody make the motion to add that to new business.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Any other changes, additions? Mr. Wonder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have some residents with us tonight. Holly Gamble, she's not on the agenda, but she would like to address operations on some issues she's having on her property from some flooding. Is that, if the body would be, I think Josh has talked to her maybe once or twice. It's in his district. Just give her a few minutes to speak on that. I think she'd appreciate it.
Okay, all right, just put that. I tell you what, and we've got Commissioner Meredith here too, and he's got to be across the street here in about 15 minutes to talk about these proposals. If we can move him up to the front, is everybody okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, you got a motion on that?
Motion to move. Oh, can we get the Holly added
Yeah,
first?
we'll put her, let's put them right under Commissioner Meredith.
Okay, so you're gonna put him above the Holiday, make
Yes.
him number 4? Okay. Did we vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Meredith.
So Holly and then we'll be after him?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll be only 3 minutes, Mr. Chairman. The other chairman, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to speak to operations. I just did a little presentation. There's photos going around about the 3 TIF projects that'll be on our agenda for commission next Monday night. There will be no action required through the operations committee. This is just to answer any unanswered questions and things that you might have heard through social media, the industrial board, which these projects have been vetted through. So I just want to give you a brief presentation and a summary of the projects, and then I'll take any questions because 2 of the 3 of these projects are at Planning Commission here at 6:30 or at Clinton. So I'll go real fast. As a combined, which is all 3 projects, you've got the Glen Alpine, basically is across the old Shell station directly across from Golden Girls. You got the drawing of it called Project Black Horse. You got Tractor Supply, which is the Fox property next to Fox Toyota. And you got the SW Clinton Partnership, which on the bottom of that picture is Christy Hicks's development. So let me tell you a little bit about them, and then I'll combine the numbers. So with Glen Alpine, you see the drawing, there's 2 restaurants as well as a 8,000 square foot storefront. They do have 4 letters of intents. 2 of those are restaurants, 2 of them are retailers. We're keeping that confidential until everything gets passed. It's a $8.3 million project. Mainly the TIF money is going to improve and square up the road. The old Shell station that's sitting there will be tore down, and the road will actually be squared off to the Industrial Park Road, which will create the drawing that you see. And then we'll actually have the back road going into the back, and it'll open up the other 2 parcels in the back. So most of this money is for improving the roads, water, sewer, infrastructure into that whole parcel. It's a really good project, 100 new jobs. We're currently, the taxes are $24,000. With the improvement, they'll go to $123,580. And the local sales tax that will be collected is $661,000 a year. On Tractor Supply, that's a $3.5 million project, 5 to 6 full-time, part-time jobs to start out. Currently, the taxes are $7,914. The property tax would go to $56,396. And they're anticipating sales of $3.5 million, which would equal sales tax of $96,250. The SW Partnership, which the Christy Hicks, also includes 56 homes that will be built behind the Walgreens. These are more upscale homes, about 190,000 to say 250 range. They are not a part of the TIF. It's a mixed-use development. She only wants the 30,000 square foot TIF, which is the parcel next to Walgreens currently. Currently, she's paying $7,690 in taxes. Improvements take it to $44,837 with an estimated sales tax of $40,000 a year. So in summary, it's $15 million worth of projects. We got $224,000 in improved taxes. We have $10 million in sales, which estimates about $850,000 in new sales tax money generated. The timelines of all 3 projects are Tractor Supply, if approved, will start construction October 15th. Glen Alpine will start construction by November. SW Clinton Partnership will start by November as well. The Tractor Supply plans to be open on April 1st. So it will be in our current fiscal year with sales tax. So I just encourage you to support these next Monday night. I'm here to offer any answers to any questions that you might see on social media. Let me make one comment about what came up in Budget Committee. Is the 20-year term that a couple of these projects are asking for. I give the example of the Oak Ridge TIF where Aubrey's and Aldi grocery store is. That was a 10-year term TIF that was paid off in 6 years, and it included the red light that you currently see there. So we get caught up in a 20-year term. Oh, we're not going to pay taxes for 20 years. As the property values increase, all of that TIF money goes to pay that debt first. Then it goes on our books. So this 20-year TIF could be 10 years, could be 7. I mean, I don't know. It just depends on when the debt's paid. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll open it up to questions or comments from you guys.
Commissioner?
Well, the question I have, you start talking about sales tax coming in, okay, that's the total of state and local sales tax, right?
That's correct.
Because not much of it comes back to the county.
That's correct. That's the total. That's correct, Steve.
And most of that comes to schools.
That's correct.
Yeah. Not that that's a bad thing.
No, I agree. That's a real good thing.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the proposal in Glen Alpine, or near the Hunters Trail exit, does that include a traffic light or any kind? I know they're wanting to extend the single.
What we're doing, Commissioner Anderson, is we're working with the city and the state to do the traffic study based on that conceptual drawing that you have. There's two studies, obviously a traffic count as well as a traffic study. We'll probably have to do both because it's really close to the limit to the other red light. But
Okay.
it is in the works with this project, yes, sir.
Okay, and are all of these contingent on the TIF being approved? I mean,
Yes, sir.
They're waiting to commit?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner McCain?
Rick, there's been some concern about Tractor Supply and Oak Ridge closing if this one is built. You know that
That is not true.
it's not true. Okay.
This project is actually being done by Tractor Supply Corporate because it's actually a new building. When the chamber did all the marketing data for Tractor Supply Corporate, all the data we did was north of the interstate. They will not cannibalize either store. And what they saw was a gap between the Hall store and the La Follette store. There was this big gap. So when we did all the cell phone data and everywhere where people were shopping and traffic, their main customer is what they call a mini farmer, 2 acres or less, raising a couple of horses or so. That's their niche. So we were able to pull that data of all those parcels, and it showed the gap between the two stores. So that's how the marketing data drove the project.
Living in West Oak Ridge, I can attest to the fact that going to Tractor Supply in Oak Ridge is pretty convenient for me, even though it's still a long drive.
Yeah.
But going all the way out to near Fox Toyota,
Right.
because that's where I have my car service, that's a real long drive.
It's all about marketing convenience. I mean,
From Oak Ridge, yeah.
we're adding a 4th Dollar General in Clinton, so it's all about their marketing and how they drive it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick, are you working with these owners, I guess, the developers?
Directly, yes, sir.
I'd probably support this only if they can get a squeaky door like Conley Sharp had on his place, and then I got to have a cheese and bologna sandwich like he used to serve.
I will pass that along, Commissioner Waddell.
And I think
I'll
we can make this
see
work.
what we can do.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea, and you know, you're not talking about the money that's going to be raised with creating jobs, and all those dollars that are spent in the county. And
150 total estimated jobs.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate what you're bringing to us, Rick. Good luck tonight.
Anybody else? I think one of the things that we talked about too, maybe between us, is setting up some guidelines about these TIFs when I was come to the Industrial Development Board, and that's something that we can probably put on operations going forward. And something that I would like for us to be able to do too is what can we do for the rural areas? That's not going to have a developer, because to get a TIF, is it a $3 million investment? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we've got some developers in our rural communities, especially in Rocky Top, that, you know, there may be $1 million, $1.2 million.
Right.
But, you know, they're trying to help out the rural communities, but what can we do for there? Because they don't qualify for these TIFs. And then typically these TIFs were for, you know, communities that was not growing. It's not for communities that is growing, it's for ones that's not growing. But I think we need to address that going forward, because I do get a lot of questions about that.
Sure.
And what do we do like for the companies like Co-op?
Right.
That's been here for years, and you know, they didn't get anything. So, you know, what do we do there? Because are we bringing in competition and paying them to come in? So, I mean, that's some of the things that the public's concerned with.
So to your point, Mr. Chairman, we had a conversation, I don't think you were in here in budget. Rocky Top actually passed the same policy we did, as well as the city of Clinton, and Norris has got it in their hopper. That minimum spend can easily be changed, but it would have to be changed by Rocky Top City Council. And Mr. Cox was here at Budget Committee giving his point of views, and he's dead on. But again, like I told, we set these policies. It's just like all other business. We can always change them.
We can change them.
So that's one. Two, that's why I'm here before you tonight. We don't require a vote through budget or operations. I think first we let the industrial board look at that and the policies, and maybe recommend it come into one of the two committees or both. And that way, that's why I'm here, budget and here, to inform you, to answer these questions before Monday. So there may be a couple of policy changes we can do. Actually, there's 3 or 4. So that, when I get these 3 done, we're not going to take another TIF till those are addressed. That's my plan, unless the industrial board tells me different.
Okay. I really appreciate you coming, and
You're
I
welcome.
know the public does, and the transparency, that's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Holly Gamble?
Okay. I'm Holly Gamble, and I'm here tonight to address a water situation that is basically storm water runoff. I have basically tried about every avenue I know. I've talked to Gary Long. I've had Danny Phillips out there. I know Terry, she's been out there to see this situation. Jay Yeager's been out there. We are in a low spot on Sinking Springs Road, I understand that. But in the past year and a half, our water situation has gotten out of control. I talked to Josh Anderson, and I emailed you all through Dropbox some videos and some images. I'm not sure if all of you all had gotten those or not last week of some of the water situation that we've got. Basically what it's boiled down to from, a letter I got from Danny and also from Gary Long is you're in a low spot, it's your problem to fix. The problem right now, I'm not gonna lie, I have hired a civil engineer, I have hired an attorney out of Knoxville. They were there at our place about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and they couldn't believe the pictures and the images when I showed them with the amount of water. One of the biggest things we're up against right now is the Eagle Bend Apostolic Church that is up on Highway 61. We had a run-in with them. I had the civil engineer at our place this past March, and he goes, Holly, where's all this sediment coming from? And I was like, I don't know. So we traced it, and it went all the way back up to the Eagle Bend Apostolic Church. So I called Danny Phillips, and so he was like, we've already communicated with the church, they've got it fixed. Well, at this point, he emailed TDEC, which Joshua Frazier is the guy that I'm dealing with TDEC. He got an email from Danny in March that said everything's fixed. Well, now, I'm not sure if you all have been up there to see all the grade work that the county or that the church is doing, but I addressed the situation with Danny about 2 weeks ago. And, he called me back. He goes, yeah, we went up there and looked. He goes, basically, Holly, he goes, what it boils down to is, they should have put that silk fence up before they started grading all that property. He goes, what I would request you doing is you just need to go up there and talk to the minister. You all need to become friends. And next time there's a problem, you need to tell them that they need to come down there and fix it. And I said, Danny, that's not my job to do that. And so anyways, in the midst of all this stuff, TDEC's gotten involved. TDEC is pretty upset at the fact that it's gotten out of hand the way it is. When I had that attorney up there a few minutes ago, he couldn't believe it. They have got a drainage, basically that all this water is coming into where they're fixing to pave all this property. It's basically shooting through a culvert that's about 20 foot long, and it's basically coming right, there's no detention pond, no nothing. With the amount of water we've got, my dad and I bought this piece of property in 2001. And I know when we've had water, we are in a low spot, I understand that. But in the past year and a half, our water situation has destroyed a lot of our property. It's gotten into our barns, it's gotten into our office. This past April, we couldn't even get a John Deere tractor down the alleyway because the culverts were probably 3 foot deep from where the water has washed out everything. Really, until you kind of see the videos and the pictures, it's hard to understand how bad it is. But the water's running across Sinking Springs Road. We're in a bend. If that happens, people fly up and down that road. It creates a hazard to that road. And, something's going to have to be done. Because with all this new development and everything that's going on, it's going to continue to get worse. Basically when we left, basically it's between the state, the county, and the church is basically where it all boils down to right now. So, you know, I thought, well, I'm going to bring this before the, you know, the commissioners to ask for your all's assistance to see, you know, if there's something I can do, you know, before it gets into a legality issue.
I'd like to say one thing. I'm Holly's father, John, across from the church up there. Most of y'all travel that road a lot. If you'll notice, there's probably 15 to 20 acres that's flat. They cut hay out, but it's just like split. And eventually that property is gonna be sold for industrial. And all that water from there will be coming down our way. And something's gotta be done to deter it. It's not gonna cost a whole lot of money, but it can be done. We know water has to go someplace. And I think the state and the county and the church should solve the problem of getting rid of the grit and muddy water. But the state and the county, with the drain coming from the 4-lane, if any of you wanna go, come up there and I'll show you. 3 years ago, I could jump across this ditch. Now I can't. It's 12 feet wide and 10 foot deep. And it's getting worse. The state guy from the, kind of Strawberry Plains came up there.
TDOT.
TDOT. He said, we got a problem. It's still that way.
Yeah.
Commissioner Anderson's first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Holly, you mentioned a culvert that the county had put in.
Yes.
Is that when the problem started getting worse?
Well, it did, and basically, Gary had come in, and I addressed, Mr. Jameson actually came up there, and I told him basically what was gonna happen. So anyways, you know, when we started getting a little bit of water, Gary came up there, and he goes, you know, one thing that we can do, maybe to slow some of this down, is maybe put a culvert in there, which I was thinking, you know, maybe a 12-inch culvert. We were out of town, and they came in and put a 48-inch culvert in between our barn. It's basically our yard. And where he put this culvert in, the civil engineer that I had hired came in and he goes, this is absurd. He goes, there is absolutely no rhyme or reason. He goes, what civil engineer told the county to put this culvert in? He goes, it is not in a low spot in your property. He goes, so when it comes out, it's just going everywhere. That's why it has caused retention ponds where our cattle are. And then it goes to the right where our alleyway is, and it's basically where it's washed. I can't tell you the thousands of dollars we've put down with rock that just continues to get washed away. I had out adjacent to where we park the trucks and trailers, we had an asphalt pad. It's washed all that asphalt away, everything. So, I mean, really, like I said, I mean, without looking at pictures, I mean, which I think, Josh, you've seen some of, and I think some of y'all, I put a bunch of them on Facebook, and I've had, you know, a lot of people call us, and they were like, is this water problem this bad? And I was like, yes, it's this bad. The church, I don't know if, you know, who gave them the permits or whatever, but it is a mess. And I had that minister at our place back in April to show him what was going on.
Commissioner Meade?
And did you say there's a property that's on the route where this water is coming to your property that may end up being developed?
No,
Was that
across the
heard?
4-lane, there's a hayfield.
Okay, but someplace where the water is a source may be developed.
What I mentioned was a 10, 15, 20 acres. It's across the 4-lane.
Across from the church.
Church.
Okay.
Eventually will be sold as commercial, prime property.
All I was going to point out is that any place that does get developed commercial, then TDEC and everybody steps in, and all the water that comes to or crosses that property has to be controlled.
Well, and I asked, I was like, are they
Yeah.
going to have a detention pond at this church? And they said, probably not.
Yeah.
And when I had the attorney up there, he was like, I don't know who told you this, but they're going to have one.
Yeah, I think, I believe TDEC makes that decision. I used to be really up on
TDEC is
that law.
involved. They've got till Wednesday to get it fixed.
They make the decision whether or not retention is required. And so that hopefully that's what happens, but the church might not be as happy as you.
It's not, I don't think that outcome's going to be, from what I can gather, they've got till Wednesday to fix it, but I don't know how much of it's going to, you know, and it'd be different. I mean, but that's my husband's livelihood. I mean, between the funeral home, my children, and my family, I mean, we spend so much time down there, and I mean, the hours we have spent fixing it, and every time we get a hard rain, we're right back to square one.
And we've been
So-
getting a lot of those this year.
Yes, we have.
Commissioner Creasy?
Yeah, I was just curious, did the church, when they, is the water coming from the church parking lot?
Well, we're getting a lot of the sediment, the dirt from the church because they have not put up a silk fence. They did, but now that silk fence, it's basically the ground, I mean, the dirt has basically come across, it's basically, it's only like 15 foot and it's not put up correct.
I'm trying to put the history of your problem in my mind. Did the water start coming on your property when they built a parking lot at the church?
It's gotten worse since then, yes,
Okay.
it has.
And did they get a building permit for the parking lot?
I don't know.
You hadn't
We don't know.
checked with the permit office? Usually when parking lots come before the planning commission like that, the planning commission
They have to have a
usually-
plan.
Yeah, they'll have engineering
Right.
drawings and it'll require a detention pond many times.
Right, right. And that
that's
was
why-
one of the things the attorney said. He goes, I want to see these building plans. I mean, he goes, that was the first thing he said. He said, if there is one, he goes, I want to see it. Because he said, this is, I
Yeah,
mean,
that
the
should
way
be
they've
on-
graded the
Should be on
ground.
record in our office.
Right, right.
Building permit office.
So, but no, I mean, that's basically, I mean, this is my last straw. I mean, because until we get, it's going to continue to get worse. And I mean, not only is it wreaking havoc on our property, it's also putting people that's on Sinking Springs Road at harm too, because the water running across. And the culvert that's taken all this water, and the county has not maintained those ditch lines either. I mean, if you all drive down there and walk on the other side, you can see what those ditch lines look like. So I just wanted to address that before you all.
Commissioner McCain?
Holly, has your engineers give you any indication of what can be done or what should be done?
They have, first off, he said where the county put that culvert in, and I gave Gary Long this letter in May. I hand-delivered it up to his office. The culvert needed to be removed. He said, because this should not be put in there. He goes, there's not, the way they've put it in and the way the water shoots out, it's not in a right place to put a culvert. What he said, the water needs to go down past us, which is on the west side of our barn. There's two other culverts right there with some riprap rock and a concrete pad. He basically said that water needs to be redirected down on the other side of your barn. That way it is in a low spot and it's being directed down to the stream that's behind our barn that opens up into Sinking Spring, or Hines Creek. But
Well,
I gave that and.
There's an old rule that says you don't alter the normal flow of water.
Right,
And if that culvert is not where it should be in the normal flow, then that,
Right,
that
right.
would be a county problem. But is there any way you can make the report from your engineer available to us?
I can do that. I can scan it in as a PDF, and I've got all your all's email addresses, and that's the one he gave me, like I said, that I took to the road department back in May.
Okay.
And nothing was, he came out and dug a little bit of a ditch line, probably about 3 foot right in front of a culvert, and that's all they did.
Is the culvert in a side ditch?
Is it what?
Is it in a roadway side ditch, the culvert you're talking about that Gary installed?
I don't even know. It is, okay.
It's in the right of way?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's not on your property?
Oh, yeah, it comes out on our property.
The culvert does?
Yes, yes.
So he had to get your permission to put the culvert there?
Right, which I didn't know it was gonna be a 48-inch culvert. I mean, it's, like I said, that's when a lot of the damages started happening, was when they put that culvert in. But now the amount of water is another issue.
I think the property owners on the side from the church and the 4-lane down, they all know what kind of problem we have. Because one guy there, he works for the forestry
Forest
department.
Department.
He don't have a culvert. Sometimes when it's bad, you can see where there's 10 inches of silt and muddy water. He's come before and asked for help, but he rents that home, so he really doesn't push it. And the gentleman up at the 4-lane, he hasn't pushed it neither. But we get the consequences of it down there. If y'all just want to take a walk up through there, you'll see what I'm talking about. 'Cause I didn't want to push the issue because I'm in business, I shouldn't. But when I go up there and I look at a church letting the water come by, and I told David Trippett, the pastor, one day, I said, David, we got a problem, and come down there and look at it. And he called me 10 minutes later because he was running in the buildings and everything. He said, yeah, we got a problem. And they, next day, I sent some men of mine up there and put some straw and some black plastic and everything across the ditch. Well, that plastic is still in there, but they came in there and asphalting and doing lots of work.
Rogers is fixing asphalt now because they were up there today with their machinery.
The engineer and the guy, our attorney today, they walked it over and they got a big, what is it, 18 inches or so?
24.
A drain right out in the middle of the parking lot. It goes off and it comes off right down.
It shoots, yeah, it's basically shooting right out to where it's basically going right into the state highway runoff, and there's nothing there as far as a detention pond or anything.
To me, the state should come in there and do something, because Bruce Worthington out in Valley Quick Pack, most of you know the little store building, there's a case right there, and when they did that, they concreted a swell through there, and they didn't blow his road, and he sued because I had to go to court with him, and they fixed the concrete swell that carried the water further down in his property. But the state, once they put a culvert, they got a 4 foot, they got a 3 foot, and they're all eroded out.
Mr. Wandell?
Mr. Chairman, if it's all right, maybe we could refer this to the Road Committee, Highway Department, and let them take it up. Now, we have a meeting, regular commission, next Monday as well. So if there's information you've gained you'd like to share with us, you're certainly
Okay.
welcome to come to that meeting at the beginning and give us a quick update. You got 3 minutes at that one.
Okay.
So we can get back into the
Okay.
business. But
All right,
Mr.
and I'll email you all, I've got your all's email addresses. I'll email you all the letter that I got from
Last Mayor.
the
Mayor
engineer.
Sorry. I
you're
was
okay.
just saying, maybe the mayor, did you have anything you could add, or?
No, we did have Jason Mann, who's with Geo Services, go out there a couple of times, and he did suggest, I think there's an adjacent property owner, because so much water does come off of, I guess from that original 4-lane expansion. He suggested maybe we approach those property owners and see if we could get them to do a detention pond.
And that was one thing they
Maybe
did
that's
see
something
today,
the
is there are,
county
yeah, there are some
try to
areas.
Facilitate, you know, I don't know. But he's you have different levels of stormwater. Danny is just a lower level, and then when we need the higher level stormwater certification, that's Jason, and he used to work at TEC, and he did go out on site, I think, twice, yeah. And that was his suggestion, maybe we could try to get that done.
Yeah, you could put detention ponds.
Yeah, I mean,
up
it would help.
Below the church, because that property, you can't build on it, it's drainage. You could put 3 or 4 detention ponds down through there and slow the water down, then keep it all from coming down all at once.
But the church is gonna have to fix what they're doing, because all those detention ponds are gonna just fill up with that sediment right now.
I don't know who's telling them to do what they're doing, but the guy that was up there with Holly today, he said, I can't believe they're going in and put a big tile like they put right in the middle of the parking lot and put it off down the hill. So that's where it is right now. I don't blame the church not doing what, maybe a member of theirs is a contractor, maybe he's telling them, I don't know. That's none of my business, but I do know we have a problem and the church has a problem. We're willing to work with them, but I think the biggest problem is the state. They need to come in and to get detention ponds, and the runoff from the church probably wouldn't be near as bad, because they're trying to get rid of the muddy water. But the chit chat problem, it's in that ditch, and it's gonna get worse.
We've got a motion, we have a second, it's in the Highway Department. Got a second, any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Looking forward to your information.
Thank you.
2020 holiday schedule.
Most of you live, absolutely, don't worry.
See you.
2020 holiday schedule.
Motion to approve is submitted, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, second, any discussion?
Mr.
I think
Chairman.
it's wonderful that we got all these Thursday, Friday holidays.
Mr. Wandell.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's wonderful too, but unfortunately I disagree with it. The average holidays for US is like 8.5 holidays. We have 13 on the books on this go around, and last few years we've agreed to give extra holidays at, Labor Day time, or excuse me, 4th of July, Independence Day time, because we never gave raises. And I'm not trying to leverage anything, but for me, Mr. Chairman, for an individual to come into this courthouse on a Thursday when the holiday is on the weekend, I think that's a tough sell to convince taxpayers that, they're getting 2 days off for a holiday on the weekend. I know many around this table that work that do not get 2 days off prior to the 4th. So I'm not in favor of 2 days. I mean, maybe I agree to a day, but 2 days off for July 4th, I disagree with, and I've always disagreed with it. And I think it should be more like 11 days total instead of 13. But so I'm going to vote against 2 days off for a Thursday and a Friday when the holiday hits this coming year on a weekend.
Commissioner Mead.
I would point out that most companies not only have vacation days, they also have sick days and other things where people get off. I would point out that when I was in the military, I got 30 days leave a year and the holidays off. And so I don't think, the other thing is, and I think this is the most important, is that we gave the employees extra holidays in lieu of raises. And we have not given them raises that would make up for what we've done in the past. So I'm in support of this. Additionally, and again, it's very important, these people are still required to get all the same work done, whatever time it does take them. Thank you.
Any other discussion, Commissioner Warren?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not against people getting vacation. They earn vacation. This is specifically related to the amount of holidays we as the legislative body give to the workers. And it's up to this body to decide how many days that is. So I guess my trouble is how much is a day's worth of work for our county? How many tax dollars are we not getting services on for that extra day? I mean, again, if somebody wants to take a second day, I think they can take the second day and use a personal day or a vacation day. But for the taxpayers to give us 2 days for the 4th, again, I'm going to vote against. I'm not going to make a motion to change it out of respect for the body's willingness to want to keep it as is, but I'm going to vote against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Jameson.
How many days currently do they receive?
13 total as presented.
That's what it has been.
And are they asking for an increase?
No, same 13.
So are you recommending that we decrease their number?
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond. Commissioner Jameson, I'm not recommending, I've not made a motion to decrease it. I'm saying that I'm going to vote against it. If somebody on this body wants to make a motion to lower it, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion. Well, we already have a motion on the floor to pass it, so I'll amend the motion to drop it down to 1 day for the Independence Day. We'll make it still have that Friday the 3rd, but Thursday, July 2nd, we remove as presented. That's my motion, amended motion.
So you're saying from 13 to 12?
Yes, total.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
We have a second on the amended motion. Any discussion on that motion?
Will this reduce the number of days?
Yes.
From 13 to 12, which would be the 2 July 4th days.
Okay.
Only going to reduce it by 1.
Won't reduce it by 1, but they're getting 2 July 4th days.
How many days are they getting currently?
13.
13.
That's right.
And this would reduce it to 12.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the amended motion,
The amendment.
the amendment? Commissioner Creasy.
Well, yeah, that, of course, this is, our agenda's been on the webpage, but I'd like to put that motion off until next month because it's affecting July the 4th, and that's quite a ways off from now. We've got plenty of time to think about that, and I'd like to hear from the public and from our employees is some idea what they feel about this. What Mr. Waddell is saying makes sense. I do know that we added an extra day when we didn't have a raise for the employees. I think we need to hear their opinions. I've helped my wife in her little small business, and her way to give employees vacation was to follow what the banks do. In other words, if the bank is closed, that was the holiday that they used. And we have a bank employee in the audience that's agreed to that. So we always use that as our guideline. If the banks are closed, that's the day that our employees took a holiday. So, and I think that's a good guideline myself. We've been doing that for 40 years, and but anyhow, I'd like to hear from the employees and from the public. Now that we're discussing it, I'm sure the public will start calling us commissioners, and so I'd like to amend the amendment that we refer this to next month's Operation Committee.
Second. We have a motion and second to,
Comment? Regardless of what we do tonight, in any following meeting, we can change this. Okay?
well, ask a full commission.
Yeah, well, any full commission meeting, yeah, we can be changed anyhow, so. I'm not personally in favor of, if when in the past we gave them an additional vacation day because we didn't give them raises, that year, that raise will never happen for those years in the past when they didn't get a raise. Additionally, most every place I ever worked, if a holiday was on the weekend, you either got Monday or Friday off anyhow. And so I don't see that as being a big issue. Thank you.
Commissioner McCamey.
Mr. Chairman, I feel like Commissioner Meade, we had a 4th of July that fell on a Thursday. And rather than come in, work Thursday, work Wednesday, be off Thursday, come back in Friday, be off Saturday and Sunday, that year we didn't give the employees any pay raise at all. Their insurance went up and they got no raise. They took home less money, and we in turn gave them an extra day in lieu of a raise, a holiday. And like was said before, the work still has to be done. Whatever has to be done gets done. But it'd be like going back and taking this year's raise away from them next year, just saying, we're gonna take that back now. But when we gave them that 13th day, I think, that they assumed that it would be 13 from here on out. And I'm opposed to putting it off. We always in September set the schedule. And, I just feel like we ought to go ahead and do it tonight. We've had it before us now since we've had our agenda. But I'll vote against the referral motion.
I do. I work for a credit union. We don't get extra days off for the 4th of July. We get what are considered the federal bank holidays. Are the courts open that day, on that Thursday and Friday, Rex?
Well, it depends. If it's a holiday, there'll be no more schedule.
No, but I mean, are other courts? In other words, is Knox County still open? Are there other courts that are doing business, or are they all getting a 4-day weekend?
What was the fourth fall?
On a Saturday.
We can check to see what the other counties do.
Yeah, in other words, I don't think it's right to award someone extra time off because the holiday fell on a Saturday. To give somebody a 4-day weekend is going to result in affecting other people. It's going to affect the taxpayers for those doors to be shut an extra day. We did just give the employees $1,000 extra. But again, back at the credit union, we don't get the day off as a paid holiday. If you want the day off, you take it out of your personal time or your vacation time. So, thank you.
Commissioner Dittenberg, officer.
Just to add to that, if I'm not mistaken, the requirement as far as days off for banking goes back to the Great Depression, where banks are not allowed to be closed 2 days in a row.
4 days
I believe it's 2.
in a row. It can be closed 3 days in a row, but not 4. It can be closed on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
No, I'm talking about regular business days, Monday through Friday. Or if it's Saturday, is one of their days, they can't be closed 2 days in a row. That would be considered business days.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
And there's still mail going out those days too, so
Commissioner Anderson.
people want to pay their bills.
Yeah, I was just gonna chime in. With the Postal Service, if someone's scheduled day off's a Monday and that's a Monday holiday, then they are given Saturday off, or an extra day's made up for them. And I know with places like where I've worked at University of Tennessee or with a county or something, the part of the rationale for salaries not being high is that it's a benefit-rich place to work. And so I think we can give a 2% raise here or there, a $1,000 raise or a $1,000 bonus. We can't usually do much, so one of the few things we can give is that extra day off. So I feel pretty bad taking a day away from the employees.
Right now, the motion is to defer for 30 days. All in favor to defer for 30 days, aye?
Ah,
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, motion fails. Now we'll go back to the motion to cut it from 13 to 12. All in favor?
ah.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
All right, now we'll go back to the original motion to approve as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Okay, get that. 205 Main Street parking lot requested by Commissioner Scott.
At the most recent football game, we all got memos sent out stating that the seniors were being allowed to provide parking spaces for a nominal fee or a donation at 205 Main, as well as selling water if they chose. I have firefighters, not I personally, but with the fire commission, I've been there 5 years. I'm, as far as I know, the only commissioner that has helped out with the fire departments, the volunteers, in standing out on the street and holding a boot and begging for money. They can't do that anymore as a result of the sheriff's department saying it's not safe for them to do so, and/or because of the way the streets are now laid out, especially in Claxton. I'm requesting that the 205 parking, or the 205 Main Street parking area, be open to the county nonprofits, not to just allow one specific entity to utilize that specific area for raising funds. I'd like to see the fire departments get an opportunity to do the same, please.
Commissioner Meade.
Well, the way I feel about that personally is that to open it to all nonprofits would cause chaos, because you could have 6 show up the same night trying to be in charge. I think this commission or the appropriate authorities are going to have to make a decision, at least on some periodic basis, of who has the authority to do the fundraising at the parking lot during games or whatever. Otherwise, it's just going to be chaotic. And so the idea of opening it up to all nonprofits, I just don't think that can be supported. It would result in chaos. So if we're gonna allow multiple organizations to use it, we're gonna have to provide some process by which the people sign up in advance. That's all.
And that's what I'm asking for as well. I'm sorry for not spelling it out completely, but no, not everyone show up and grab a spot or a section, but to allow the ones that the county is backing, in other words, your fire departments, the rescue squad, senior center, to be able to sign up to utilize that space. I just don't think it's right to say just you can use it and/or benefit from it.
And Leon may suggest some Veterans Committee using it also.
Commissioner Anderson?
Put on my hat.
Have you spoken with the new sheriff's administration about the policy on the boot drives or anything? Or I know that's been in place for several years.
No, the fire departments have simply come back during fire commission saying that they're no longer going out and standing out to request funds.
Yeah, actually, the sheriff's department didn't make that ruling. There was a state law passed, and because when it came out, I thought it was a little weird, but I complained about it. But there's actually a state law that says you can't stand in the right-of-way of a state road, like would be out there at Claxton. You're not allowed to stand on the road to collect money for nonprofits or things like that.
Well, they're not
So-
doing it in Claxton because it's far too complicated of an intersection.
Yeah, but what I'm
since
saying is
they've
there's a state
widened it.
law that says you can't be on the state right-of-way for doing those kind of collections because the state legislature decided it was unsafe
When was that?
last year,
Okay.
last legislative session.
Commissioner McCain?
3 weeks ago, there was a cheerleading group, I think, at the Claxton intersection, collecting money. So I mean, I don't know if they had a permit or,
I'm just fighting
Or
for the
not.
firefighters.
but I don't know. But maybe the sheriff can, before our next meeting, can
But
tell us
I've
what
been
the
out at
rules
the
are.
intersections and held a boot, and when traffic comes through, there's a lot of people that just aren't afraid to run over your feet. So,
Commissioner Wandale?
Mr. Chairman, who is in, I guess the commission perhaps is responsible for the 205 main location at this time?
Yep.
You know, I think what happened, the way I interpret it, is the seniors sent out an email requesting if they could, you know, do the parking for that particular day, that game. I think there's no liability in whoever we let do that, the volunteer firefighters, the veterans, or whoever. I would support that. I imagine it would have to go through the mayor's office to request. That's kind of the way it went down, I think.
We didn't actually end up doing it.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, the bus lines, expressed some concern about, them parking buses for the game, and so we just bailed. We never actually went through with it, so.
And maybe we should just hold off on anybody doing anything until we find out what we're going to do at 205 Main.
okay.
Yeah. Hopefully we can sell it.
Well, we have a fire commission meeting coming tomorrow night, so I was going to continue the discussion there.
But I think it'd be a good idea to approach, you know, like Rodner and maybe some of them other property owners around there that they don't always sell, you know, parking. They might be willing, if there's no liability on them, and I'm not saying they are, I'm just giving some ideas, but I think it's a great idea for the volunteer firefighters to do some fundraising.
Beautiful, thank you. That's that for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Okay, next, juvenile court security.
Are we stepping? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ed, I know that you'd already been to budget and request maybe some funds, and I think they're working on that. It's going to go to full commission or back to budget committee for funding for some of the things you need for security. But what we want to talk about tonight is some of the issues that you have and what we can do as an operations committee. And maybe there's a subject at hand that you could do a quick fix, because what we have is where our bad system is down and it creates some security issues, and I think you've got some ideas about that. And then there's some other security issues that we have there in the building. And we've took that up, and I think we're either going to talk about some courtroom security later on.
Okay.
Well, just to be clear, historically, the badge system, when juvenile court was moved over to the Jolly Building, I think if my memory serves me correctly, I did work for April Meldrum at that time. We were in the courthouse, we moved over to the Jolly Building. The decision was made at that time to have a separate badge system, I think because juvenile court is a closed court, and to limit the number of people that could get in there. So we have the same badge system as in the courthouse, but just it was our own. Probably 7 months ago, the badge system started to fail, and we contacted IT, and a gentleman tried to work on that system for about 2.5 days and told me, this system is corrupted and I can't fix it. At that time, because it was our understanding that was ours, we think, what are we going to do? We have a really tight budget. Where are we going to find funding to handle this? We'd reached out to HR, and we kind of said, why do we even have our own badge system? Why? We're part of the county like everybody else, and had been told that since we have the same badge system, that one's not in great shape either. Maybe we should just give up our right to have our own system and become part of the whole system, because they were going to include Oak Ridge, get a new one for the courthouse when that died, and they would bring us in so that I don't have to manage that on my computer. So we gave that over to HR, who now owns that. That is no longer our responsibility. While we couldn't modify the system when it became corrupted, we couldn't add people or take people off, we could still badge in and out. Over Labor Day, it quit, and it's done. I mean, there's nothing, we can't do anything with it. So I contacted HR and let them know, because we don't, it isn't our responsibility, I guess I'll say, anymore. Even though, as director, I feel responsible for the safety of the YSOs and the judge, but it isn't technically our responsibility. So I guess that's why we're here today, because the rest of the system is still working for the courthouse. Ours is dead. And I invited someone in the earlier meeting to come over, come to juvenile court and see why we think that security is important in that court in particular. I know how the criminal court works. I've been a lawyer for 32 years. I know how all the other courts work. But we have court 5 days a week where 3 days a week or 4 days a week, we're removing kids from parents. 1 day a week, we have a growing population of juvenile, we'll call them delinquents, for you to be able to understand what that is. These are largely young males and females with no frontal lobe. Spontaneous, no filters, whatever. Right. We deal with this every day, day in, day out. And we have court 5 days a week from 9 a.m. to 5. So where we're sitting right now, even though it is not, I guess, technically my responsibility as the one who manages the budget for juvenile court, I don't know what to do. Because as I've heard in the prior meeting, we're going to have a period of time until it's determined what to do with the overall badge system, I'll call it, and our daily struggle of the judge coming in behind a bailiff. To complicate it further, with all the doors that we have, there's not one key, there are 3 keys. And so we're trying to remember, you'll see I put this opens most doors, but not all doors. So we're bent down. We've got people all over the hallway, the kids and the parents, to key in to all of our secure doors, including the bailiff taking the judge around, bending over, opening the doors with his back to the people who, in my mind, are the threat. So, right. I mean, parents come in.
Right. Oh, we have, yeah.
While we're removing their kids.
I can go on and on and on about meth being back in the county. I know it's not popular for everybody to hear, but it's back in full force. So, what I looked at for myself is we get a grant for $9,000 from the state that we can use to try to better our program. I could actually use
part of that money to put up a temporary, actually it would be 3 keypads for the 3 key doors. 200, I think Oak Ridge Locksmith told me, $230 some per keypad, times 3, and that would include installation, training us, and managing that. I own 2 homes in this county. I don't want to waste any money. I have to also say I don't recommend spending any more money to see if we can fix that system because it's not great to begin with. But I don't even want to spend some money on a keypad if pretty soon we're going to have a whole new system. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I am concerned about the security for the people who report to me and our judge.
Well, this body does, the operations committee doesn't approve spending the money like the budget does, but I did get to sit in during the budget meeting, and I didn't, I don't think that was discussed, this alternative solution.
It was not.
But I think that's a good idea because you're going to be spending less than $1,000. And I think we could probably approve, the concept of doing it. What does everybody else think? It's a temporary solution, but
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like the 4-button keypad things?
Yeah, he
I
said.
mean, I have one of those on my front door of my house.
Well, that's, I guess what it is, it's a keypad. They said that it can hold up to 18, because each person will
Yeah.
have their own, so that should someone quit or get fired, we can eliminate that one, but it can hold up to 18
Yeah,
different
and
codes.
you can edit them. You
Right,
can
and
take
we're gonna
somebody
get
out, put somebody
everybody-
in, yeah.
Correct.
But those are doors that you would use that lock for access during the day, but at night there's still another lock you would shut, a more secure lock, right?
Oh, we have locks, the front door,
Yeah.
the front doors are always secure, but we have, and you'd have to come to see, we have rooms where the probationers meet that is behind a secure
Sure.
thing. The court staff, the court
Yeah.
room, I guess we have about 4 or 5, but we can't afford to do
Yeah.
that right now.
Look,
We're actually,
all I'm saying is those locks are, you can get a pretty good one, a really strong one that has all this multiple stuff and the batteries last a year or something in them, the ones that I have.
they do. My only concern, candidly, because I haven't checked into it, because it's all about time.
But you
Sitting
wouldn't want to
there.
replace the really good bolt lock on a door that you want to have secured at night with one of those locks.
Right.
Because it's just
There are
4
bolts.
digits.
Yeah, we don't have bolts, but
Yeah.
we don't have those type of locks on we have 2 exterior doors that none of us come in and out, and then that one exterior door we can key in.
I agree, though, on a short-term basis, that allows you to have selective access by only the people that are required. Each person, you can have 19 people or 18 people that have independent combinations that if they leave or whatever, can be dropped off and added on. I just think those are pretty effective locks.
They are. I just candidly would hate to spend the money. I am frugal, and I hate to spend, that is, yes, you could say less than $1,000, but that is $1,000 that I don't want to spend if we're going to have a new overall system
But it may
in the
take-
near term.
You have 45 days or 60 days. So, Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the young ladies for bringing this to our attention. First and foremost, security is very important, and especially with what everyone's dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I think the $1,000 purchase, you're saying you have those funds, or?
We do. That's part of our funding from the state, so it doesn't even come from the county.
I'll make a motion that we endorse the recommendation you're bringing to us as a legislative body. Obviously, as the chairman already said, that we don't approve funding per se, but we would certainly endorse your recommendation for the short-term quick fix to get security in place. And then for the long term, we would look at going to the overall card system. But I think for the short term, I would suggest that you get it done. So my recommendation is to endorse the recommendation to put those locks on that you mentioned for roughly $1,000, and we would support that. That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion second. Commissioner McCamey?
Yeah, I probably spend more time in juvenile court than a lot of the staff, so I'm very aware of what can and what has happened. I've been there myself when things sort of got out of hand and deputies had to come in. I don't know why this wasn't treated as an emergency. In our purchasing department, you know, they're allowed to do whatever in an emergency situation, and I would consider this an emergency. But I definitely will go along with the motion to endorse the concept, but I think it should be treated as an emergency because it is something that I would consider an emergency.
I guess the question is, in a county emergency, where does the money come from?
I think they're gonna use their own. Yeah.
We're using grant money for this particular
The
thing.
money is available, it's just a matter of the purchasing, you know, getting a purchase order, which I think the purchasing agent can do in the morning, you know, I mean.
And what this motion does is approves it gives them support from legislative body to go forward with that.
It does, and I do appreciate it. I will say, though, two things. One is I'm going to wait until county commission, till this is actually brought in front of the commission, because it's also my understanding it could be brought up as an emergency, and somebody could determine that we need, because the badges are the best thing, because time is everything. And when you're sitting and putting in numbers, your back is still to the people. We badge.
have to make sure everybody doesn't see.
You do. And this way, candidly, we can badge and be in, and you're still aware of your surroundings. If you're keypadding in, you're not doing that so much. I'm just trying to figure out something, because I couldn't anticipate going a long period of time the way we are right now. And I would also invite everybody to come, because I have other security concerns. There's a window that is Rex Lynch's window, but it's not a window. It's a hole where the clerk's office is, and you've seen that, Mr. McCamey, that it can be easily breached, and then would give the person direct access to all the clerks, all the court staff, and the judge, because it's just a straight shot into there. So I'm not here for that, but we talk about this all the time, so I figured, well, this is maybe the time to bring that up too, because the county doesn't want, if something goes awry, it would probably be a big awry. Yeah, big awry. And we're seeing more and more loose cannon type situations among both the delinquent children and their parents. So anyway, I appreciate the attention, appreciate the time, and are we done?
Commissioner Reed.
I believe, though, that the intention of an emergency purchase is that it not have to wait for full commission to vote on it.
Well,
And that there are appropriate people in that process that can make those decisions of whether or not it's an emergency. And so I'm not sure how long you want to wait, but getting a real resolution with the new badging system. There's the badging system guy. What would you say is an estimate before we get a new badging system for all these county buildings?
An estimate to replace it all?
The time.
Oh, the time involved in it?
You think we can do it in 6 months?
Oh, we could do it in 6 months. I'd say it'd take about 3 months if we did.
Oh, okay. As quick as 3 months, okay.
Juvenile court was, well, they were gonna do it first. That's why I said, once it was approved, probably 30 days from the date the contract's signed.
I talked to Gary at Central Office, just getting a feel for what they think, and they would do the juvenile court first building, and then I think Kim was saying the Jolly building itself, and the sheriff's running the system anyway, that would be ideal to put that property first.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's been more planning than what we all knew about.
And I think what this motion does, it gives them the opportunity to make that decision.
that's right. And we'll wait until county commission's next week.
Monday.
Yeah.
And I would say we would go 30 days, 30 to 45 days with these, because I don't know that the badge is that much better if we're going to end up, the keypad, if we're going to end up with that. But anyway, you'd asked to bring this to your attention, so I appreciate you giving us this time.
All right, we have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you have something you want to say, Commissioner?
Before we voted, I just wanted to be sure I understood what the motion is to give them a temporary fix until Brian, our IT man, can resolve their issue.
Yeah, we're just showing that we're supporting their decision. If
Right.
that's the decision they
And
make.
I vote aye, yeah.
Yeah. Motion passes. Thank you. Vacant parcels. Commissioner Scott.
I've asked the mayor to come help. It was brought to my attention by someone in the county, a property owner in the county, that they know of another property owner who has taken down a fence and is utilizing what is actually county property because they mow it anyway, and they've got a small garden on it. So I contacted Johnny Alley and asked him to forward some information regarding parcels, whether it was once used as a tower, a piece of parcel for a tower, for maybe a cell phone tower or whatever it may have been, or just some sliver right-of-way at one time. And perhaps approach those attached property owners to see if they would purchase the property, get it back on the tax roll, and get money back into the general fund. The mayor has given me quite a bit of information that she had gotten from Johnny's office, but she said at the same time she had brought this to our attention once before, and it was put on the back burner because people were more interested in the tax dollars, the delinquent tax dollars. But I'm looking at actual parcels of property that don't have any use for us, where it may be a small sliver. Like I said, to get it back on the tax rolls.
Commissioner Scott and I and Johnny Alley emailed a little bit about this, and what we could do is, if you all thought it was an idea worth pursuing, we could go back to the Delinquent Tax Committee. I have a couple of old proposals where we came once before. At that time, I think Commission was interested in just maintaining a stance of only accepting the amount of taxes owed. But in some of these cases, the parcels she has, they are just slivers, and it would be of no value. For instance, as a landlocked parcel, it would really have no value than the adjacent landowner. So someone to the left or the right or behind. But we could go back to that committee and, with your recommendation, maybe look at that proposal again, fine-tune it, and bring it back to this body. I'm not talking all parcels. I'm talking just the ones where that she's referencing that there's just no way, unless it is of value to someone, we're going to get more. The goal is to end these hanging slivers that are out there and get them on the books and get them on somebody else's tax card. Yes.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, say Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, that's kind of common in subdivisions sometimes. And I know you have some experience with that through your father. Where the subdivision being developed and there'll be some sort of leftover property that wasn't developed.
Yes, sir.
And it belongs to no one except come back to the county as delinquent tax property.
Right.
I'm totally in favor of that.
Now, I'm certainly in favor of trying to do that. But I also know that there are issues, because I have a friend that bought a lot in Oak Ridge some years ago, and they continued to pay the taxes on that lot. They thought they could sell that lot. Nobody will buy it. They offered all the neighbors and all that, so they say, look, we use it anyhow. And we don't have to pay any taxes on it. Why would we buy it? So it is a little difficult to convince somebody to buy a lot that they get to use anyhow.
Right.
For the advantage of now being able to pay taxes on it.
Well, Roger
But if you
probably
could get him to
likes
do
the
that,
plan because
God bless.
he mows some of these parcels. Not everyone is taking care of them. So.
Because they have to pay taxes on it. They have to sign for it anyhow.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next was ethics committee guidelines, but the law director's not here, and I don't think he's prepared. So we'll just put that off till next month.
I agree.
Next is Mayor Frank.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, and thank you. I know most of you all, a lot of you have been here since 3 o'clock in this room. This has been Mega Monday meeting. First item, Russ Nelson is with us. He is the Senior Business Development Manager for ESG, and many of you are familiar with this company because the county has approved the second go-around with ESG for overhauls of the school system. The first project was a project that updated the systems within the school department, modernized some of the schools, addressed some equipment needs, and they funded that through savings. So last year, when the schools were looking at round 2, they were over in the Jolly building making their presentation, and I approached Mr. Nelson about perhaps looking at the same type of plan for the county, knowing that we have many capital improvement needs. Was there a way to address some of those needs in our buildings and pay for it through savings? So that is what he is here tonight to talk about. I have briefed Operations Committee several times over the last many months to let you know they were working on something. It was at no cost, and this is just a preliminary engineering look. But my official motion will be to request a detailed engineering and project development activity, and of course that would go through the purchasing process with Catherine. But I'll now turn it over to Russ and let him talk a little bit about what he has found with the county and answer any questions for you all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to attempt to be brief. It sounds like you've been here a long time. How much time would you like me to try to take? Because we have a lot of information. I think it is helpful to show you some of the things we found, but in light of your time, what would you suggest?
We're pretty tough.
Just share the, go, all right.
Basically, if you can tell us what the bottom line is, how much we're going to be investing, and what the possible savings could be.
I'm going to try to stay in sync here with the slide turner. I tell you what, so this is kind of the outline of what all the information is that I have. So this kind of helps you understand why it's taken us some time to put all this together and really have an accurate view of things. I'm going to tell you that the mayor summed up really the goals of this pretty well, that you've got capital needs. We've been very successful for the school system addressing a lot of capital needs. I mean, really looking back on the school system project, it's really pretty impressive. We've replaced probably going on 2/3 or even better of the heating cooling systems, and just a lot of other important things. So, and that's all been on the backs really of existing budget dollars. So to the bottom line, it was a very nice cue up, but our bottom line is we believe that we can fund $4 to $5 million from primarily energy. We believe there's some maintenance impacts that are real impacts, and then that's really not considering at all that we're avoiding some expenses for you that would really have to be capital dollars. Equipment that is past life and different things that really are desirable to upgrade. So I think honestly we were a little surprised, and there just is a lot of opportunity. We do not go into these studies, I'll say lightly. We try to make sure we've done a reasonable job of triangulating information and trying to understand. So that's the quick bottom line. I will, if you can stay with me here, I'll jump to this slide. We always try to understand the big picture on energy to begin with, and we look at things in terms of a cost per square foot. The expected levels for the big buildings The DARC is just a unique building. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that later on here, but in general, we believe every building has a significant opportunity to have the cost reduced from energy. The biggest by far is this building in terms of a percentage of what's being spent now, and the Jolly building has substantial opportunities. And this building and the Jolly building really are not 24-hour-a-day buildings. They're much more akin to an office building schedule along with this type of meeting. But, you know, this really doesn't involve the entire building. So we try to be fair to what a building's use is and try to look at it compared to similar buildings that are fair. When we look at it on a BTU basis and taking the cost out of the units of energy, we're really painting about the same picture, maybe even a little more dramatic opportunity that we believe is there. So the bigger part to a degree, I think, of the story of these slides is that at times when we see substantial opportunity, it also tells us there's probably substantial need. And let me go on to this slide quickly. In this building, what we're not seeing on the monthly utility use, and when we break things down to a lot more detail, we're not seeing a typical seasonal pattern of change in the usage in the electric, natural gas. And when we put a fancy chart up here and ask our analysis computers to tell us how weather sensitive is this building, what it really tells us is the building really is a challenging building to maintain comfort. It tells us you've got probably a lack of insulation. That's just a fundamental challenge for the building. I believe the building was built or completed around 1962. A lot of buildings then just did not have a lot of insulation. Anecdotally, as Roger has helped us really understand, the building is a challenge on cold nights to really turn down. It's a challenge on hot, sunny days. So a lot of our correlation of this different information tells us that. So just in general say, there is a substantial amount of utility savings opportunity. So I'll go through the buildings quickly. The big need in this building is you've fundamentally got an original HVAC system here. So there were upgrades made 8-10 years ago that helped, but they didn't really replace a system that probably never had tremendous opportunity to provide comfort. It's a lot of big zones. So there are opportunities within how the control system is working here. The ceilings, when we look at a building, we try to ask ourselves, what would give the building the most years of life? If we're gonna make changes, for instance, to adding ductwork, if we're gonna preferably probably have new LED fixtures that really change the appearance and give you a higher, what we call a renovation value to the work we do, there's a reasonable likelihood we'd recommend really replacing the ceilings, giving you the most modern building that somebody walks in here as possible. But again, all that, the intention would be to let energy savings pay for that. We would do LED lighting here in every building. We like to see occupancy sensors. They're not the perfect technology, but they're getting a world better than they used to be. And we like to tie them into the heating cooling. So if a space doesn't need the lights on, it probably doesn't need full heating cooling as well. And today that's really gotten to be a standard for us. Insulating the building's walls, that's on the wish list. I don't know that technically we're gonna bring back something to you that is what we would say a truly excellent way to do it, but we know that it's a challenge for this building. We've heard from listening to people, there are definitely security concerns and opportunities. Whether or not that was part of or could be part of our scope of work, that's completely up to all the folks that will be involved in working with us. But it is common, just as we're doing for the school system right now. We've really gone to full card access system for all the classrooms, all their exterior doors. So it's somewhat a matter of knowing for sure how much savings opportunity we've really got and what that will fund of the things that are the highest priority for you. Some of those projects just have to be done to create the savings. So, there's been discussion of having a single entrance here. We've helped do that. We've worked on a lot of courthouses around the country. Some projects being fairly simple, some being just complete renovations. So really about any item that you can think of to upgrade this building is within the type of work we do. But that would all be up to you. Our first goal is to try to stay within the idea that we want a project to be able to pay for itself without you needing to use capital dollars. So I'll just show you very quickly. You do have, in the bottom of the slide, you do have a lot of space heaters. And that tells us in the winter, and it also at times they're at use in the summer, that the system's just challenged to provide consistent comfort throughout the different spaces. A simple thing we always ask ourselves is how many zones of control are there? And for 20,000 square feet, you've got 8 zones of control, and this is a block building, which adds a lot of different exposures. So it is a challenge to expect that the building's going to be really consistently comfortable. We believe the space heaters, we're seeing those in the utility usage. The design is such that heating can fight cooling just by design. So your boiler, on the days we were really looking, was putting out about 150 degree water, and the cooling system was putting out 47 degree water. So that's not wrong. It's just part of the design of the original system. What was done 8 or 10 years ago helped, but it's still a challenge. We believe this building would be well served to consider a couple different options, but we would be afraid to give you some partial solution. So what we'd like to do is really do a proper level of engineering to decide what would be a 30-year solution, such that all the spaces throughout the building would be comfortable. So your current source of chill water for the building is over 22 years old. Other infrastructure is also desirable. We take pictures of the ugly stuff, so I'm going to just confess that. You've got prettier stuff, but so that's the story of this building. It's got some real opportunities. I think the longer you're in and around a building, you don't tend to notice things. My sense just in general is the ceiling is a detraction from the building, and it is in the hallways, and it just, the diffusers look original, the light fixtures look original, and life would go on just fine. But our goal would be to accomplish some really meaningful renovation in this building such that it can carry you for 30, 40 years down the road. And again, we expect the savings to pay for that. The Jolly building's got some similar needs. Really, it would just be some unit replacement of the heating cooling. That system is really it's a good system. How it's been zoned and some of that, we would like to think we can improve on some of that, but we always hear the worst when we ask people how are things. They tell us the bad problems. I have spent a lot of time in the Jolly building with school district meetings, and I think people could be probably more comfortable, but same kind of things there. We would like to see motion sensors. It's not a 24-hour day building. There's a lot of areas that could turn back. Its utility usage indicates that. The ceilings over there, the same kind of thing. We think that building could really get a facelift with new ceilings. At times, you can go ahead and paint the grid, and we've done a lot of that and put new tiles in. It just depends on whether we're going to disturb a bunch of things with other things we're doing. The heat pump units over there are largely in the ceiling. So that's part of making a good recommendation back to you is do we go back over there and really make an effort to give you the most renovation value possible. The windows, just the look of that building from the exterior, if that's somebody's favorite building, I want to apologize for insulting, but I've never personally felt like it serves the image of the county that well. There are additionally security upgrade opportunities there. I've mainly heard that from the school system. I did get to talk to the sheriff and that department. So, they've made do with the way things lay out now, but I think there's some better ways to secure some of the areas. So, again, we believe that's a good mechanical system. They're just some of the heat pumps in the ceiling that are well past useful life. The big visual changes would be new windows. These are not true window systems. They're a thinner glass, a storefront design is what we call it. So this type of approach to a window is a lesser deal compared to a true window. And I won't go on about this, but obviously different parts of it from the exterior just really give that building a dated look. So I would just say this too, if there are opportunities to help really enhance the look of this building and the Jolly building from the exterior and maybe tie them together in some way, we think that would be a real win for the county. Every downtown I think I've been associated with, a smaller downtown, is always trying their best to make their downtown the most relevant place to inspire development. So also I tell you is I think there's some opportunity to enhance the attractiveness of downtown with whatever is done to these buildings. The jail complex, I'm going to call it the jail complex. I'm not sure if that's the right way to address it. We would definitely see a big win to change the lighting there to LED. There are some opportunities with what we saw in the HVAC system. The kitchen equipment is used obviously every day, 3 meals a day. Anytime we can enhance equipment used that often, it's going to be a good opportunity. And we know that from listening to their needs, the camera systems could take a big jump up to current technology. They'd like to add some coverage they don't have. So there are a variety of things. And ESG has a correctional division. So we've done some huge correctional jobs. We've also done a lot of county level jobs. But there are a lot of very specific things to correctional facilities that are a big deal to the folks that work in them and want to have them managed the best way. So, so there are a variety of things that we can help there with. Not much at the health department. Pretty much we would update the lighting to LED. That's an individual thermostat, programmable thermostat type system. We'd prefer to see that on a control system where you can really schedule the holidays, make sure that people haven't overridden thermostats. And again, we like to see occupancy sensors. So the save the best for last, I think maybe. The DARC is a classic building to the things that oftentimes we're asked to look at. It's a building that has changed purposes, and at times, it's not necessarily been invested in heavily. So obviously you've got some courts there that are nice facilities. You've spent a lot of money to make the courts there in good shape. That's a long list of stuff there. And I think our main focus on that building would be to bring you back what we believe it would take to make it a more substantial facility. But I'll click through the pictures here. I mean, you do have a significant amount of square footage. A lot of it isn't significantly used at this point. We didn't try to do a percentage ratio on what's really being utilized. You do have a central system, that's the cooling tower that connects down to the chiller. You've got a almost new boiler and a very new chiller. That part's good. What we don't like about that is that in a building with very spotty occupancy, you're conditioning an awful lot of building for very limited space. So, I mean, realistically, we're going to try to do good research for you on that building and the costs of different options. But, you know, there are definitely inefficiencies going on in the building. That's some uninsulated lines. But again, to attractiveness and whatnot, depending on what possibly would be a scenario where the county would really benefit to maybe having more tenants, you know, it just doesn't feel like a building a lot of people are going to want to move into and pay a reasonable amount of rent on. A lot of different spaces there. So, you know, I think you've got some decisions to make whether you'd really invest in the building. And, you know, that would include the ceilings again, the windows. This is one of the units, and as we zoom into the unit, you know, basically you just got some very old stuff there. The amount of hazardous material in the building is another challenge. There is, without question, probably every flavor of hazardous material in some form or fashion somewhere, whether it's lead paint, asbestos glazing. We know you've got 9-inch asbestos floor tiles. So we haven't attempted to really understand all that fully, but we know that's a challenge. The controls are very basic controls. You've still got some spaces with, whether they're used or not, some window air conditioners. The windows themselves are, you know, again, I'm not trying to be hard on this building, but it's just a typical building that's been repurposed, and you guys have effectively ended up with it in your inventory and tried to make the best of it. So, again, I don't know that we're going to recommend to you exactly one thing or another. I think what we're interested in trying to do for you on that building is give you a sense of what it would take to maybe switch the heating cooling to a bunch of individual units. Maybe provide a way that you could charge the tenants that you do have for the utilities they are truly responsible for. So potentially we could create some sub-metering. There are a variety of things that could be done. I think the question is what the desire of the leadership of the county would be. But we would like to give you at least more information about the options there. Without question, all the things, again, we would move the lighting to LED. The one thing with that is at times we're really well to go ahead and just replace the fixture today and give you a fixture that looks like a modern building. That's not a necessity, but it's an opportunity. We know we're going to take the wattage in half or better in these fixtures, so we believe it's just like this area. We very well would not lay out the fixtures this way. If we had a new ceiling to work with, we would lay out the fixtures in a different pattern. So there are a lot of opportunities in the lighting. Some of that goes along with the ceilings. That's the Cove lighting in the Jolly building. It's about as poor a use of lighting energy as you can imagine, because very little of that light actually gets down to the hallway. And in a lot of places, we measured light levels that are really far more than you need. So Again, a lot of opportunity. Some of your outdoor lighting, the garage lighting, big opportunities for that. Your other lighting, this lighting happens to be high-pressure sodium. We're going to enhance the look of these facilities inside and out with the lighting. The last thing I'll share with you is that you and many other counties haven't necessarily got the critical mass to have a significant maintenance department. So effectively, what we'd like to help you do is figure out a maintenance strategy that makes sense for you. But I think this is one of the things, Mayor, that you heard us setting out to accomplish for the school system. And the main thing is you've got to know everything you own, and then you need to know the basics about it. When is it going to have to be replaced? What should the preventive maintenance be on it? And it should be a cost center. Each individual piece of equipment should be able to be charged against when people work on it. So if a given piece of equipment's a real dog, then you should be able to know that and make decisions based on that. So we would like to give you some aspect of computerized maintenance management software that does that kind of tracking. And we don't know that there is a perfect solution to the right sizing or the appropriate approach for the maintenance, but we just know for Roger, it's a challenge. It's not maybe the perfect scenario based on the size and the challenges. So this is the savings estimate. This is energy savings. We're at about a 29% reduction that we feel is realistic. And depending on what you really did at DERC, it could be quite a bit more than that. Again, a lot of that building really is being heated and cooled without necessarily real heavy beneficial use. So we believe there are maintenance savings. We're not far enough into understanding exactly how you're spending maintenance expenses on different equipment. We just know you do have a lot of older equipment. Without question, it's more expensive to take care of that. So at this point in our financials, we have a $25,000 per year estimate. That may be very conservative when we really understand what you're spending. And then the things that are really pressing, the capital costs that are going to be hard to avoid in the next few years, our expectation is that those dollars are just a pure benefit. We would not use those dollars at all to fund any of this work. This work would be expected to be on the backs of really energy and maintenance savings. So when we move those figures to a one-year look, and assuming you did a similar finance structure to what the school district's done, a 20-year structure, that's where our bottom line is, that we believe we have the opportunity to fund $4 to $5 million from energy savings. And that's really first cost. So obviously when you do a financing structure, you're going to have interest expense. So today is a phenomenal time to, if you have to borrow money, this is as cheap as we've seen it. I don't know how long. I believe Oak Ridge just got a 1.91 rate on a bond they issued for some roofing. So, we do think there's going to continue to be inflation in the construction market. So we're very encouraged that this isn't I know it tends to be grouped as an energy project, but I think there's going to be opportunity for this to really be a significant, truly a renovation facility upgrade project. But we're fine being grouped either way. We would just like to help you guys move forward with your facilities. But this is a pretty big deal, I think.
Okay. Requesting a motion to conduct a detailed engineering and project development activities.
Yes, sir.
And that is at no cost to the county.
It's no cost if we have the typical condition that we've had for the school system, but we're going to start really spending money now. We've been spending money, but now we're going to start bringing in a lot more engineering staff.
So what are we talking about?
So if we bring you back a great project and you guys say that's nice, but we're not going to do it, our walkaway disappointment fee is $35,000 that we've set. So my management thinks that's way too low, and I said I think we can live with it. But so that would only be in play if we brought you a successful project, paid for itself, and the decision was to not move forward with any work.
Okay, and in the project that we did before with Johnson Controls, they gave us a guarantee that if we didn't save what they said we would, they would write us a check at the end of the year for that amount. Is that the same with ESG?
It's better with ESG.
It's better? You write us a check for that plus 10%?
Well, in full disclosure, I spent my long career, I've spent 5.5 years with Johnson, but their preference is to do guarantees that are really a calculation-based guarantee. There's some aspects of the guarantee that are measured, but it's largely a calculation-based guarantee. And what we have for the school system and most every other client we have really ties back to the actual bills you get. We have to show you the reduction on the bills. So a guarantee isn't always the same. That word's the same and it's spelled the same, but our guarantees carry a lot of liability for us. So you need spendable dollars. As you know, I'm just going to put my citizen hat on. If you're going to take out debt with the confidence that this is going to save money, you need spendable dollars to pay that principal interest. And we've been obviously very successful for the schools. We exceeded by far the guarantee in real dollars for them. And so that's our hope. Certainly, you know, this is our simple list of things we think can come of this. And I will just say, Johnson's a good company. I probably would have done some things differently, honestly.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the full commission motion to conduct a detailed engineering project development study.
Second. Motion second. Discussion on the motion. Commissioner Yeager.
I'm going to take a little latitude here and ask what the beginning and ending number of years this would be for, even if you include DARC or don't include it. What's the length of time?
As far as a payback goes?
No, as far as the construction, the renovations and the...
Oh, okay. Well, this would be our development schedule. And we believe we can really come back to you pretty promptly with opportunities to understand what we see. The construction time frame, once we're really building something,
right?
We believe it should be 12 months or less.
Oh, okay, great.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, just briefly. I mean, it's understood that the savings that can be generated, just like there was a graph you showed, what you expected that improvements could be. It varies from building to building and depends upon the equipment that's there, and it depends upon, you know, a bunch of factors. Yeah. But when this is done, you're going to come back with an actual, this is what we recommend, and that's when warranties and guarantees and stuff can be made.
Yeah,
I want you to know that I appreciate what companies like yours does, because everybody's talking, what can we do to reduce our carbon footprint and all that stuff? And there's all these companies like yours that are cutting people's electric bills in half, you know, and what's better than that?
Well, cut it in half and make the comfort and the environment better.
And make it better.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. But yeah, about a year, and we always like to do the quicker payback things if we can quickly and get that construction savings to be in the bank for you. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
10-minute recess.
So I can warm up.
Thank you. resolution number 19-09-770.
Yes, sir. You all have probably seen this in your CTAS emails. I sent this out a couple of months ago as we were going through the budget process in case we wanted to participate and add extra money. What this is for, there are 2 steps to participating with the state in a matching program for electronic monitoring for the indigent. And we do have, I did share this with the law director. I know he's not here tonight, but he was reviewing this. I've talked to my fellow mayors. They actually addressed it at the mayor's conference. I wasn't able to go to that, but the mayors said this was a win-win. That was their determination in talking with CTAS. I did share it with Rex as well to look at it from his angle. In pre-trial in 2018, we actually used $9,549 for indigent monitoring. I don't have the final current year numbers, but it looks like we used around close to 7,000, or 6,000, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was looking at the sheriff's number. Pre-trial 7,518 in 2018 and around 6,000 for 2019. The sheriff, I reached out to him. He said they had been budgeting for indigency, but there were not a lot of folks that were eligible. So I will get final numbers from him by Monday. If he's wanting to participate. It looks like they've budgeted, they reduced their budget. They used to have 50,000 in contracted services in that correctional incentive program, which that's Mary Ann Young's program. And now that's budgeted at 20,000, but it looks like they've gone from about 9,500 in actuals to 6,600. So that kind of lines up with what we're spending. But if we want to participate in this, it would require the resolution, which is the first item, and then a memorandum of understanding between Anderson County and the Tennessee Treasury Department. If we do participate, then we have to show them what we budgeted this year, and then we can either make payments to the state or we can send that total amount to them. And if it's not matched, if we end up not using it, then we can request at the end of the year for that money to come back to us, or it will roll over into that fund. But either way, it may sound, say only $7,000, but it's $7,000 that the state's matching that we didn't have, so.
Yeah.
So, have a motion, second, any discussion? All in favor?
It's always good to have something paid for with somebody else. And if we can if there people are eligible to be monitored like this, that's so incredibly cheaper than having them in jail.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next, and I'm asking for this in concept, at the City of Clinton last council meeting, in your budget, in your operations agenda, there is a map with a parcel of land that's approximately 5 acres. And as soon as you go over the Green Bridge, you've got Carden Farm. The City of Clinton is doing a dog park. They got a grant, and then they're putting in their own funds. They're doing a dog park. Well, if you go around the corner over the bridge, there's some farmland. I think there's some sheep over there, and then it goes down into this 5 acres. And the City of Clinton, if we are able to secure funding for an animal shelter, which, as you know, we're working on, and we're trying to get some grants and things like that, they are willing to lease that to us for long-term, whatever meets the eligibility requirements for grant processes, so 25 years with renewal for $1. And I don't have the lease agreement yet. I am working on that. But in order to go out there and do some work in terms of surveys and things like that, and just walk the site, in concept, I would like to get your endorsement in concept. The city of Clinton has already approved it, so I'm not asking for anything that they have not approved.
Well, I noticed you say it goes down to this 5 acres. Seems we just heard some stuff about catastrophic water issues.
Well, it's not that far down because there's.
That far down?
No.
It's actually on the river.
If you're right on the river, you got a place for the water to go.
It's where they shoot the fireworks from every year.
Yeah.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, this sounds like a fine idea.
Yeah.
Motion have a second?
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
Fine idea.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all, and I think this was it's a great win to partner with the city and have them do that for us. So I think that was a very charitable, kind thing to do.
I wanted to make that comment as well. Very good.
The next item is a resolution for a TDOT multimodal project. There is a great need for a sidewalk there. In fact, we had a young person, fortunately, who was not critically injured, but was struck by a car. And there is a desperate need there for sidewalks. So we submitted a letter of intent. TDOT has a new two-step process where they cull through the applications and then they pick those that they would like to apply. And so we did win that honor of getting a request to submit a full application. This is a 95% and with a 5% county match. The maximum we are allowed to apply for is $1 million. And so I have drafted the resolution that is up to $1 million, which would make the county's participating cost $50,000, which is that 5%. So that's the resolution. And then if you are in support of that, if you would also authorize the letter that I have submitted, that is a support letter that would be sent to the transportation manager.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, I was just going to say, support the resolution 19-09771 and the letter of support. Commissioner Meade already got it. I'll support it. Yep.
Got a motion second, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item, I just wanted to give you a really quick update. You all were very kind and gracious and authorized a resolution allowing me to reach out to R.J. Corman about their possible abandonment of line. I have heard favorable response from both R.J. Corman that they are willing to meet. TDOT wants to also meet and be a participant. So I, on Friday, got official notification from TDOT with phone numbers. The R.J. Corman folks are in Kentucky. TDOT is in Nashville, and we're all going to find a place that we can meet. I have reached out to the mayors of Campbell County and also Scott County because they have an interest as well. So we'll continue those discussions, but I wanted to keep you up to date that things have moved in a positive direction, and whether something comes of it, I don't know, but at least we have the opportunity to sit at the table. So
Okay, that'd be really good for the New River area.
Yes, sir.
Scotty Phillips called Saturday and we talked about in length, you know, for a long time, they tried to get that rail to run that train that they had. But I think it would be a real help for our rural community.
On that, didn't you work on that at one time, Rex?
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
very good. The next item, I just wanted to give you a status of work for the requested witness rooms on the third floor. I know this committee has looked at that for a while, and Roger is here if you want to ask him any questions. He did engage Studio 4 Design. They did come and look at some of the ways that we could create a witness room that would not, require major expense, I guess major in terms of, some type of overall renovation. You want to talk a little bit about that, Roger?
Well, basically, y'all kind of understood where it's kind of like going into Miss Harris's area over here. It's to make the entranceway ADA compliant, which would take a little bit of work. I think I'm looking at like just basically build some walls, move some lights, maybe change over some heat duct and stuff, which basically ends up around $12,000. And that was, I had it bidded out, had some contractors come look at it. Our just concerns now is, which opens up a big thing, is what we're gonna do with some of the records in order to make space in the area. I know I know Rex has talked with Miss Ruth. That's all I really remember about some of the what do you call them, portable filing cabinets. But I guess what we're saying is, us or you all, or as far as commission and stuff, will have to decide if we want to move some of the records and stuff to Oak Ridge, maybe relocate somewhere else in order to give the space. I guess I'm just saying, I done my part. I was asked to get a construction part of it, where we were at on it. I did that. I've got 4 rooms. It's laid out. I can give y'all copies of it anytime you need them. But basically where we're at right now is we've got the room set up, what we were asked to do. Now we have the space issue.
And my plan of action was to inventory the records that are on the second floor and see if we could not free up some space there in order to better accommodate the changes there. So, I mean, we'll have that and be able to report on that by next month. And I think that with the space that we do have at DARC and some of the free space that's available, I think that might be a good solution into helping this project.
Ms. Harris, do you want to say anything about it, or?
Our position to this is that the judges that want this space in front of my office there, he might have court 1 or 2, maybe 3 days a week. So all that space would be empty, unused. My second opposition is that if they build those 4 different sections there for offices for attorneys and their clients, if an eruption starts, I have no way of getting out. There is no back door for me. The records that we keep in that area that's back there are into every day. Just for instance, today, there was a man that came in and wanted a copy of his case that he had in 1997. I got the docket number and I went straight to the file and pulled his file and got it for him instantly. If we move these files to another location, it might be 3 or 4 days a week before that person can have access to his records. Have any of you all witnessed and took a tour of what's in the vault, in our records? We use those records daily. And it's not only just for people that come in and do research for their families, it's county history records that we've got. And right now, I do daily, and I'll show you the book that I keep. I took a 3-year course of managing the records for Anderson County's records. This is one I use daily. Every office, the records that are to be kept for a certain period of time. Down in the vault, we kept all of the juvenile records. They have to be secure. Accounting records that we have down there. I have access to eliminate and destroy from the dockets that tells me when things happened. When I first went to court records, there was accounting cases there, actual checks, receipts was over 30 years old and hadn't been accessed. If I don't do that yearly, accounting has no place to put their records and keep them in file. It's the same way with our county records in this. Mr. Queener and Mr. Mapelazari, when that room was vacant, the jail left, they took funds from their offices and put shelving and fixed it up for us to have a space for our records. Anderson County was the first county in the state to have all of their loose records microfilmed. And they are microfilmed from 18 and 11 up to the confidentiality period, which was 1930. It's 1940 now.
Yeah.
We have all of these records are available. We have been given a grant to buy a machine, which we have done, to microfilm all of those film that we've got, put them on computer, so people will have access to read old county records. If we eliminate our space in there, if we have to move them to another location, it would be time wasted to have to go look for those cases for people. I would invite all of you, if you want to go in and look at the vault and see how we have the records, I can take you in there tonight.
Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment. When the commissioners, we had gotten together, there was a group of us that got together and went through the buildings, excuse me, we went through the buildings to look at what space we have available and or what is out there. The records vault is one of the areas that we spent time in. I'm not saying to get rid of any records, but we've already promised the judge that he can have space there for the attorneys and the witnesses and or their clients to meet. It is such a tight area where the records are kept. I don't even know, maybe 3 feet wide, not even 4 feet, is how much space you have to go in between those aisles. And it's like I told Mrs. Harris, I said, it's nothing against you personally. I'm more concerned about your safety. If she takes a book out, she has to pull it down off the shelf, hug it, and move sideways to get down the aisle itself. If something did happen, whether it was a fire, an outage, power outage, she wouldn't be able to find her way out. She wouldn't have the accessibility to get out of that room if there was an emergency. My concern is more about her than the records. Yes, we need to keep the records. Yes, we need to keep them safe. However, that's a hazard. Something needs to be done with the majority of those records. I don't see a line of people standing there asking for documents that go back to 1965 or 1943, et cetera. There's no reason for a lot of those records to be housed in another area. You've got to look at it as a safety point.
I didn't have any action tonight. I just was giving you a status update. And also, we have done some work in visiting. Knox County actually has their archives housed in one particular area, and then they have a record system for the other records, such as finance records and things like that. And I think we can come up with a way that will solve both of the problems and make everyone happy. I hope.
Well, I just want to point out that there was kind of an alleged thing that there wouldn't be any egress out of there. Any design that we approve was going to have fire department and ADA approved egress out of that building into the hallway. Is that not right?
Well, there is actually an access. Now, in my office, you don't, but there is access to the clerk's office through a back. That way would not be obstructed if we did the rooms on the front.
There's still going to be a passageway right through between
Yes.
those rooms. There will be an ADA
Correct.
and fire department approved
Correct.
egress
Yes,
route.
that's why he got an architectural firm to
And the only
look
thing
at
that
it.
would be blocked, if she locks her door on her end, then that would prevent everybody else from getting into her records room, which is also necessary.
Yes. We're not doing anything. We're going to bring options and plans back to you all to decide. So I just wanted you to know we are working on it. So I know this has been a question that's been raised over time. What's going on? The judges put in a request, and we wanted you to know what we were doing. So we will come back to you with, it will ultimately be commission decision.
Commissioner Creasy?
Yeah, and I applaud you for trying to take care of her issues as well as the judges. That's my goal here. I've been a supporter of Mrs. Harris ever since I've been on commission, and I feel I'd be stoned by some of the groups that I belong to if I didn't support her fully, 100%. And I want to see her protected in her environment, and I want us to work some way to solve both issues.
Yes.
But definitely I want her taken care of. My full support is with her and the history of this county.
Right. Absolutely. The next item, I don't know if you want to, it's been a long night. I don't know if I want to open this discussion up, but I included in your packet an Attorney General's opinion. And this goes to some of the things that changed in the courthouse. I included it because we're not actually required to post notice of when judicial proceedings are in progress. And the main reason I included it is because when the law changed at the state level, an elected official, for instance, in a safe place could keep a personal firearm in his or her office. And when the law changed, basically saying no longer did that just apply to where the court was, but it now applies to the entire courthouse, that eliminated that ability. And so I just wanted to bring it up in terms of, I know there are elected officials that have, I don't have one, I probably should, but who have carry permits, who would like to store a personal firearm in a locked place in their office in case one of these horrible incidents happens or comes here. But the way the law is now, that's not allowable. And so I did not know if this is something we wanted to maybe take to, if it was of interest to commission, to take this to legislative committee and see, is this something that we would like to ask for a definition from the Attorney General? I know when you look at, and Commissioner Mead's more of the expert on this than I am by far, but I asked Nashville, what does it mean, carry, if you're storing a personal firearm, for instance, in a locked drawer, would that be carrying? And they sent me the case law where it's not very clear. It would just be up to the decision of the judge. And I can share with you the case law that they sent. But I don't know, again, I know everyone's been here since 3 if you want to open that up, but I'm more than happy to take this issue to the legislative committee and address it further.
Motion.
If I could just briefly address a couple of things, okay? I know quite a bit about this, and I've gone through this in some detail. And I completely agree with the mayor says. When this legislation was being worked on a couple of years ago and they changed it from the room where proceedings are in progress to the building, I was very much opposed with that. And Because before that, the county basically could decide if they let employees have guns at work or however they wanted to do it. And they could decide who was part of court security, and there was a lot of things, okay? And in fact, after this law was passed, the next year, they'd made a change where county commissioners with carry permits are specifically authorized to carry in the building as part of the security of the building, with the exception of going into a room where proceedings are in progress. And this thing about the posting.
We've got a motion to refer, which, and we got a motion and a second, so.
Deferral motion.
Deferral motion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Well, it's coming to you.
Yeah.
So it's going to legislative?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last item I have on the agenda is, this is strictly an idea, and I wanted to discuss it with you in terms of maybe pursuing it. If you look at what is going on with Windrock Mountain, you've got Brushy, you've got a lot of concerts that are coming in, and we have a distressed area, which is, Bryceville, Rocky Top in terms of economic development. I wanted to throw out the idea, and maybe we can come back and talk about this next month. I know it's been a long day, but what you all would think about perhaps doing a contract or some type of consulting plan where we look at those communities and we help them, whether it's Oliver Springs, Bryceville, the unincorporated part of Rocky Top, because I know I don't want to get into the city issue, but if we could help them develop a plan on how they could capitalize on that tourism, those existing businesses that are doing well, and how they could create some type of plan where they could get a work list as communities and tick something off. But I look at, in terms of, the economy, if we can help them, lift them up, then we're all going to do better. And the cities have planners and, just some of these unincorporated areas do not have that benefit. And I thought it might be something worth looking into, so.
I agree. That's a great idea.
What, do you need any kind of motion or
Well,
something you could do and just bring it back to us?
sure. I mean, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there and see, is an idea worth pursuing?
I think so.
That's a great idea, much needed.
I wanted to be sure Tim agreed with that, because
Just letting everybody speak.
he works hard up there
Well, thank you.
at Bryceville and Rocky Top, and he helps in Oliver Springs. He's all over the place for these rural counties. But we needed him to be
Oh, definitely.
in concert with you, Mayor. Yeah, good, great idea. Yeah.
If I can be of any help.
All right, great. And I didn't put it on the agenda, but also real quickly, something else that you all supported was a resolution where we sent a letter to the Centers for Medicare, and we requested them to adopt a wage index change that would affect the reimbursement rates for hospitals in the state of Tennessee, which it's going to have a big impact in our community. And that rule change did go into effect. Our comments were submitted. A lot from our area in this state were submitted. And so that's going to be a big change for local health care. So I just wanted you all to know, sometimes you see this stuff that you do and you don't get to hear that it made a difference, but in this case, you absolutely made a difference, so.
Have we heard anything about when that would be coming to effect?
I forgot to bring the letter up. It's October. I can't remember if it's October 1 or 15 or.
So it's pretty soon.
Yes,
Oh, great.
yes. Yeah. And apparently we rank as some of the lowest in the nation. In fact, I was talking to Senator Richard Briggs the other day, and he said, I guess one of the hospitals where he has worked was the 7th lowest reimbursement in the nation. So we obviously have had some issues there, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time. Next, I know the law director's not here, but we still take up the ASAP litigation tax. Stephanie, if you want to come forward, but what we're doing presently is it's $5 is what we're giving, and it was on a temporary basis, and we could go up to $25. My recommendation would be, to go to 10 and make it a permanent solution, but that would just be my recommendation. Stephanie,
Evening, Commissioners. Glad to be with you today. Would you like for me to read the resolution, or do you have a copy of it?
please.
Okay. And just to give you a little bit of background, 2 years ago, this commission adopted this resolution unanimously with an idea that it would be a pilot to see how it worked in an effort to see if it would offer a sustainable resource for us. So the resolution states that resolution to reestablish and levy a litigation tax of $5 for the use and benefit of ASAP of Anderson. Whereas on February 22nd, 2016, the Anderson County Board of Commissioners passed Resolution 1603576, requesting the Tennessee General Assembly to amend Tennessee Code Annotated 674601. That resolution continues, but the state law at that time did change. The commission then passed a resolution requesting the General Assembly to enact a private act, which also then did happen, so that litigation tax could fund programs aimed at substance use prevention. Whereas substance abuse affects many families in Tennessee and local funding sources are needed to implement local treatment and prevention programs. Whereas ASAP is a nationally recognized and award-winning program in Anderson County designed to carry forth the mission of substance use prevention and treatment. And whereas in order to maintain the established goals and objectives promoted by ASAP, supplemental funding sources are needed. Whereas Anderson County Legislative Body respectfully requests the Tennessee General Assembly pass enabling legislation in the form of a private act or general law of local application that will allow Anderson County to levy a litigation tax to continue and maintain existing substance use prevention and treatment programs and initiate additional programs dedicated to the ASAP mission. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Anderson County Legislative Body meeting this 22nd day of February 2016, that we respectfully request the Tennessee General Assembly pass enabling legislation in the form of a private act allowing Anderson County to levy a litigation tax up to $25 to fund ASAP substance use and prevention treatment. So again, that passed, and the resolution that this body then passed that became a local ordinance was that our fee would be $5. There was some conversations and negotiations that stipulated that it would not go toward violation of probation, because the whole purpose of this is to keep folks out of jail, and that it also would not apply to any juvenile court costs or expenses. Otherwise, it has been collected by the clerk's offices. We are funded through the Office of National Drug Control Policy at $125,000 a year for 10 years. So we have one more year of funding, and their expectation is that we be funded fully locally from that time on. So we have a number of grants that help to support that. The average collections from the tax over the last 2 years have been approximately $18,503 per year. That started low and then has increased. It was down just slightly last year. Just to give you an idea of the utilization of funds, 0% have covered administrative costs, 100% have gone directly back into programs that have supported people in Anderson County. I can go into detail with that for you if you're interested, but all of the programs have been part of ASAP's overall comprehensive community efforts, which have reduced adolescent substance misuse by 53.5%, resulting in a significant return on investment. So the resolution this time, based on Commissioner Isbell's recommendation, is to increase from $5 to $10 the litigation tax, which comes through as a court fee, and make that a permanent litigation tax.
I believe the private act that was passed by the legislature and then adopted by us allowed us to go to 25.
That is correct.
Okay, and so we already have that in place, so we're acting under the authority of the private act.
That's correct.
That is correct.
And so I'm very much in favor of going ahead with this. I also want to point out something. Last month, I attended a series of conferences at the White House complex in DC for Anderson County, and your program was highlighted on a map of Tennessee as being the best program in the state of Tennessee.
Thank you for saying that. I was unaware.
We knew that.
Commissioner Wendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie, ASAP has done amazing things, and I appreciate you and everyone that's involved and all the sponsors. And I know some commissioners have done a lot and everybody around, but I'd like to see us, I don't know if you're able to, so the funds that you get on that $5 currently as it stands, you're allowed to use that in any way you want. I heard what you said, you haven't used it on administrative, you put it all back into helping rehabilitate, I guess you said. Is it possible we could take some of the funds if we raised it even more and redirected it to the areas the mayor just talked about, the Bricevilles, the Oliver Springs? Once upon a time, you probably know this, out in Rocky Top, Lake City, formerly, there is a location that was set up to help folks, get back on their feet, and I don't know what happened and why it went away, and I'm not saying that's what it needs to be, but I'd like to see us make an investment into that community, or Oliver Springs, or both of them, or all of them, because there isn't, it seems, much for folks to turn to in the way of making a living in those areas. So if we can use those funds to help expedite that or help jumpstart, I'd like to see that, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know how we do that, but I'm in support of raising it up even more than $10 and taking, if we went to 15, taking 5 and setting aside to help jumpstart the mayor's idea and doing things of that nature. But I'm certainly going to support the 10. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good idea.
If I can respond to your question that you asked in the middle of that, part of the requirement under the state law, when 674601 was amended to include this request, was that the money had to go to a coalition within the county in which the funds came from that was engaged in environmental or population level prevention strategies that were evidence-based through the Office of National Drug Control Policy. So as long as we stick within the guidelines that are set forth based on the model in which we operate, then we would be able to use the funds. We could have specific funds for different parts of the county.
Just one more, and obviously I trust you and ASAP, and whatever you decide, I'm not advocating it should do anything. I think you guys got more knowledge in that area than I got, but one thing I love about what ASAP does is you get into the schools. I know some think schools, we shouldn't be, getting into them, but I think because of ASAP's efforts and getting into the schools, we're seeing that decrease in drug use and alcohol use, and I'd like to see that continue, and anything we can do, I'm in support of that. Thank you, Mr.
So
Chairman.
you're thinking $20?
I'm happy with 20.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yeah, well, I hear some scuttlebutt over there.
But you have to realize that people that are being required to pay this are people that are typically financially not very well off. So I hate to see it go too high, because some people could literally not be able to pay this and end up being put in jail over it.
So the stipulation does designate that it will not fall under violation of probation. So non-payment of this fee, this is not true for other fees, but non-payment of this fee will not result in violation of probation.
No, but these are people that are just coming out of court, and then they have to pay this, and when they can't pay things, there can be difficulties for them.
Mr. Chairman, what are these funds used for? I think they're used to help drug prevention. So any funds we get, no matter if it's $5 or $25, it's all going back into our community. So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, fellow commissioner just mentioned a minute ago, we had all the way up to $25. So I understand his concerns of going to 20 and people not paying it. And I think Ms. Strutner's already pointed out they're not necessarily going to violate probation if they don't pay it. So we've done 18,000. If that was at 10, it could have been 36, and you go 10 more and it could be, 64 or something like this. So I think it's all money that goes back into the county, and I'm fully in support of it. And I think the ASAP program, which he pointed out earlier, was pointed out in DC at the trip he was at by the president. It makes all the sense in the world to do it. So I'm in full support of it at whatever level this body would like to do. I think my motion was to go 20. I'll do 20. Amended motion.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie, had you looked at anything as far as, is there like a point of diminishing returns where you're worried that setting it too high is going to cost you money if not enough people can pay it?
I believe that's probably a question better answered by Rex Lynch, and I know that he had to step out, but in conversations that I've had with both he and his predecessor, there has been concern about diminishing returns, but that's why the state law was capped at $25.
Any other discussion?
I'll just point out that if, whatever we recommend this be set at this month, the commission can change it next month if they want to.
We have a second on the 20.
Isn't the motion on the table 10?
No, there wasn't a motion. He actually made the motion for 20.
Okay. Well, I will vote against 20, but.
You got a second on the 20. Any other discussion?
What amount are we voting on?
20.
Going from 5 to 20?
And it's just like, well, I went to Washington, D.C., and we received an award, and we were the #1 county in the whole United States for the work that ASAP had performed. Main Street Baptist Church has these type of drug rehabilitation and things like that some of these funds could go to. I think Rocky Top Methodist Church does the same thing, and there's a lot of churches in the area that, they rely on the funding from the church body to do that, and then some of this is just from donations. So I'm sure that whatever we donate, we're actually making Anderson County a better place. Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, and if I understood what you and Commissioner Meade have said, our present private act allows us to go to 10.
25.
The motion.
Up to 25.
It's capped at 25 because it's considered to be by the state.
The private
particularly
act.
Excessive at that point.
That, other words, our legislative body has already, our legislators in Nashville have already approved our private act up to 25?
Yeah. The private act approves up to 25.
Okay, I misunderstood what you had said earlier. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Any other discussion?
You said the $125,000 is set to expire this year?
We have the $125,000 federal dollars until October of 2020, and then that expires. Now, I'll say that this is not the only source of sustainable income that ASAP has. However, it does take all of those funds together to replace the funds that we'll be losing. And it's not that we're losing the funds, it's just that you get them for 10 years, and then the hope is that your organization has built itself as sustainable enough in the community and has been identified as being an impact maker so that it will be supported.
Right.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Stephanie, approximately how much has been collected at the drug boxes or at the drop-off boxes and/or the events that are held where people can bring their unused medications?
Since the inception of the program?
Over the past year, I'm sorry, over the past.
Over the past year, well over 6,000 pounds of medication have been collected through the
Pounds
police
of tiny
department.
little pills, and that's through educating the community. I'd like to see you support the $20. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Now, that was the caveat as the permanent instead of the temporary. Yep, okay.
Thank you all so much, and I just want to let you know that I have a work commitment out of town on Monday, but we'll make sure we have representation here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the lane right-of-way, and I don't think Jay was prepared anyway for that. So that'd be, maybe he'll take that up under full commission. Next is new business, which is Commissioner Scott, proposal for $10 registration fee and/or wheel tax.
This will be my last time coming up tonight, I promise. I've dropped off a document to each of you. It's a spreadsheet. The figures come from Jeff Cole's office. It's the Anderson County registration and renewals for years 2014 through 2018. Just a couple months ago, we had a resident, while we were talking about the taxes, the property taxes, a resident came to the podium and said, you know what, there's a lot of drug dealers out there that aren't paying their way. There's a lot of renters out there that don't pay their way. If you take that into consideration, that they're utilizing our schools, they being the renters and/or non-property tax-paying residents, they're utilizing our schools, they're utilizing our roads and our county services. Last year, had we had a registration fee of about $10, you can look down at your yearly totals. Last year, it was 82,870 tags. Throw a zero on that. There are some that are able to be taken out of that factor as well. We could have had about $820,000 if we had a $10 registration fee. That's 5 cents on our tax rate. Therefore, making it where everybody has to pay something to utilize the county services. And as Commissioner Jamison had pointed out at one point during the budget process of how many packs of cigarettes it would take to pay your taxes at the end of the year, this is less than 2 packs. I'd like to ask that we look to put a $10 fee on the registrations as of January 1st, 2020, therefore giving the people some time to stand up and say yay or nay. But just in the residents, the tax-paying residents that I've spoken with, they're for it. I had one man tell me this afternoon, I have 5 vehicles. I'd rather pay $50 knowing that it's going straight into the general fund as opposed to my property taxes going up and others that are looking to move here to kind of go, yeah, well, we don't want to pay that much in property taxes. This way it's fair across the board. Thank you.
Is this what you call a wheel tax?
You call it a wheel tax, I call it a registration fee.
Okay.
Commissioner Meade.
Well, one thing I want to point out is renters pay their rent, which covers property tax. Renters pay sales tax, renters pay fuel taxes, renters buy lottery tickets that help fund our colleges. I think that it's not fair to say renters don't pay their way. Thank you.
The registration fee, is this an annual payment
Yes.
per vehicle?
Yes, well,
Oh, okay.
it's, yeah, those
I
are
was
just the
thinking
registration. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was thinking registration. When I buy a new vehicle, I take it down and I register it with the clerk. And is that, so this is something, when I buy a license plate, this is what?
Correct, it's when you're getting the little tag to stick on your license plate, that's what the registration fee is.
Oh, yeah, right now we're paying 20?
It's about $29 for renewal now.
Yeah, it went up to 29, yeah.
Commissioner McCamey.
So it would go
Oh, I'm
up
sorry.
to
39.
39.
Per year. Not per month, not
Yeah.
per, okay. It would have brought in about $820,000 last year. Over a 4-year period, that's over $3 million. Had this been in place, that would have been 5 cents that came down on our property tax rates. I'm just looking at it, avenues to be sure that we can bring that 10 cents back on down at least.
Commissioner McCamey?
Mr. Chairman, if I'm not mistaken, it takes a 2/3 majority of the full commission to enact a wheel tax.
Registration fee.
Well, there is no such thing as a registration fee. It's called a wheel tax. You pay on your vehicle when you buy your tag. Several counties have it around, but in order to enact it, you have to have 2/3 majority of the county commission to do that, or a referendum
I got the code today.
of the people. Do what?
I got the T.
There has to be 2 meetings,
Mhm.
2/3.
2/3 2 times, right?
It has to be
2/3 the vote of the county legislative body at 2 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings, or unless it is approved by a majority of the number of qualified voters of the county voting in an election on the question of whether or not the tax should be levied. And it's under the statute on privilege tax, so it's a motor vehicle tax.
Best known as wheel tax.
Commissioner Meade?
I also have to point out that if you have a special tax that you add to something, then you have to keep the records for it. It has to be administered. And so for a $10 a car tax, it's likely to cost us $2 or $3 a car to keep the records and manage the program. And so I just think there's if you have the same amount of money go to property taxes, the whole system's already there. There's really no additional cost. But if you add a separate tax that you now have to track and put another line and keep the records, I'm just not in favor of a wheel tax.
Commissioner James?
I believe that she's got this figure of $800,000, and the people who would be paying that will be all of us who are paying our taxes now, and our property owners and car owners and everything like that. She talks about these people that some of these people are renters. That's a small number of people in this county. So in other words, the people who are paying their property taxes now and other taxes, this is just you might as well just add it on to the property tax.
No, you might as well not. I have one vehicle. I don't have a problem putting out $10 for that one vehicle. I have a neighbor that has 3 vehicles. I have renters across the street that have 5. I'm doing the short math. You've got apartment complexes that are, they're sharing what we have to pay. I pay sales tax dollars. I pay property taxes to keep the roads up.
Any other discussion?
That's my point, Commissioner Meade. They do, we do. So they should pay just as much as we do. And if somebody has 5 vehicles, it's only fair for them, and they're renters, it's only fair for them to pay their way as well. I've got property taxpayers that are coming to me saying, it's a good idea. Everybody should have to pay a bit of their way.
Oh, Commissioner McCamey, I'm sorry.
Well, what this would do is give your county commission 2 ways to tax you. And if you trust your government, that's one thing. If you don't, then we can raise your property taxes plus charge you a wheel tax. I think it's best just to leave it with the one thing that we've got. We can only do property tax. We can't, I don't think we need another avenue of an additional way to tax the people.
Commissioner Creasy, go ahead.
Was there someone else?
He's yielding to you.
And I don't want to speak against my fellow commissioner, but Robert and I went through this one time before, and I know the comments we got about the wheel tax then, and I've already started. Of course, this idea of the wheel tax is already in the public. Our constituents are already calling and telling us either they're for or against it. My wife is for it, but the constituents I've been hearing from, Teresa, are not for it. And I have to listen to that, and I don't know if I can support it.
And that's understandable, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You and I are, yes, from the same district. We both have people that come to us.
You're right.
And you may have more on your side that are opposing. I have more on my side that are for it.
I'm sure that's true.
And they're comfortable with it
Yeah,
as well.
I'm sure that's true.
Commissioner, are you done?
I just want to make sure that these property taxes do in fact come down next year. I'm looking for avenues, doing my research, and looking for ways to make sure that it
Oh,
comes down.
absolutely. We both are, yeah.
And I'm just getting a jump start on it now. I'm
I
sorry.
applaud you for that.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate Commissioner Scott looking at ways to get the tax rate back down. But, you know, right now at this point, we came through a pretty tough budget process, and we got what I felt like we got the property tax rate down as low as we possibly could to a level most of us were comfortable supporting, even had, you know, some support from the mayor with choosing not to veto it. So I think it, you know, that when it was first brought up that an extra $10 on the wheel tax would get us $800 and some $1,000, that was an alternative to a property tax increase. And so right now, if we did it now, it's like Commissioner McCamey said, it's a property tax increase plus a wheel tax. So I'd definitely be okay looking at it, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road, or at some point if we were if it were an alternative to an additional tax increase. But right now, I don't feel comfortable pursuing it through the commission. If we had a referendum or something, that'd be something totally different.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Wendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Interesting discussion and points. I mean, we was looking at a 54-cent tax increase at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Many around this table argued why we need a 54-cent tax increase. Now we're sitting here patting ourselves on the back saying, well, we got it down to 10%. We did a good job. We did do a good job, didn't we? But we're still going to need money. I know Commissioner Anderson spoke several times in which he brings up a great point, capital outlay needs. He brought it up, and quite frankly, he's about the only one. Maybe Commissioner Isabel did a few times, I don't know, but that's still a valid need. It's going to be a valid need. So I would just make a simple comment that I'd make a motion that it be forwarded to the Budget Committee for further discussion. That's my motion.
I have a motion, and we have a second. Any discussion on the motion to be forwarded to the Budget Committee?
What she's proposing?
Just proposing to go to the Budget Committee for debate and discussion. This body wouldn't be able to pass it anyway. It would go from here to full commission if we decided to take it up, but it still would be required, I think, to go to budget anyway.
It should go to budget. It should, or if that was the decision, but it needs to be publicly noticed, you know, so the public can be weighed in on it. Any other discussion? The motion.
One question I have is anyone that votes for this will go on the record as voting for a wheel tax, and you will eat it later.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
No.
No. Okay, let's do Commissioner Anderson?
No.
Commissioner Yeager?
Yes.
Commissioner Wandale?
Yes for going to the Budget Committee.
Exactly.
Commissioner Creasy?
No.
Commissioner McCamey?
No.
Commissioner Meade?
No.
Commissioner Jameson?
No.
Chairman votes no.
Trying to get our passes down. I'm not, can't see much.
Good try, Teresa, really. Yeah. I applaud you.
Unless somebody has any old business or something else to, one note, and I talked about that on radio today, is that the city manager from City of Clinton was really impressed with the growth and went over to verify the numbers that we used here, and they were verified. And the city of Clinton's take on the growth would be $77,000. Yeah, and that's money that's going to be coming in already. So, anything else come before this committee? Oh, Commissioner Anderson.
Chairman, could we get a quick update on the convenience center? It looks like it's getting pretty close to being
I'm
finished.
sorry, I intended to reach out to Jim today and get the latest. I apologize.
I'll have something for you by Monday. I know Jeff sent, we're getting pretty close because they want to know where to put that dirt that we had piled up in the middle in order to do some berms to protect visibility. So I'll have to have a report for you on Monday.
Are they doing anything on that other, on the unused parcel? It looked like there was some activity over there. They were maybe building up a foundation or something. I didn't know if they were just maybe storing some of the fill.
We're on the remaining portion where the convenience center will not be. We're not doing anything if there is any activity. Now, I know there is some activity that folks have thought was us, but Jerry Reidner, I believe, is doing a project, and he's on the backside there. He has Clinton Glass, but then he also owns that adjacent property. So I don't know if that's what you're referencing or not. Okay. But I'll make sure to have a full report ready for Monday.
We've got a concrete pad that you can put out.
Yeah.
Really taking shape.
We've been staying about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and, no rain has been part of that. So we were looking at completion mid-October or beginning of November.
Again, thank you all for your time. Most of the people have been here since 3 o'clock with no lunch, no coffee, no donuts, so thank you very much.
Lots of smile.
Thank you.